strokes gained putting were the two keys for those guys the weeks they won. Another thing that's interesting, there were 10 rounds of 63 or better in 2012.
Wow.
So that tells me you're going to have to make a ton of birdies. So I'm looking at birdie averages, another stat. So I find two guys that are quite, fall into the top of all three of these categories. And what do you know? They're the chalk. Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas. 5-1 on DJ. He won this event last year, has phenomenal success on Poa Greens at Pebble. Absolutely fits the bill. 5-1 is a tough price to swallow. Then you look at Thomas. He's the fourth choice. He's 16-1. We talked last week about him withdrawing from the PGA and maybe not being healthy. I shot 44 on the back, leading to an 80 on Friday. I'm skeptical whether or not he's healthy. He fits the bill if he is. But you know what? 5-1 golfer, that's no fun. So I wanted to look a little bit deeper. I came up with Brian Gay. Brian Gay's a really good putter, and he's been a really good putter for a long time. His stats don't really – he's never at the top of many stat categories because week in and week out he's playing courses that are just far too long for his dink and dunk kind of game. But if you look at his success on the shorter courses with smaller greens, his game might suit well here. He's top 10 at Pebble each of the last 2 years. He's won at Hilton Head, which has small greens and isn't very long. And he plays well in the fall at the RSM Classic, which is at Sea Island in Georgia, also another par 70 short track like this week. So maybe there's some correlations. He's 125-1, maybe worth a flyer. As far as matchup goes, just not enough info this week. I'm staying off the matchups.
I'll throw a few of the guys I checked off at you. Webb Simpson is one. Tee to green, pretty solid. If he's dropping putts, he's going to be in the mix. I did circle Piercy because he's in halfway decent form. And it just feels like the type of tournament that Snedeker usually contends in.
Snedeker was a guy that I looked at. He's played really well at Glen Abbey and the other Canadian Opens, and he's had a lot of success on the Poa Greens. So he really figures, and what scared me off this week is there was a giant market move against him in the matchups with Bubba Watson. So, at 30 or 35-1 in a field that includes DJ, Koepka, McIlroy, Thomas, Kuchar, and with a move against, it was enough to get me off him. But Snedeker was definitely on my list of guys at the beginning when I started looking.
So when it comes to a big line move, you're willing to change your opinion about a matchup as well.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to bet the other side. And sometimes if they only have one matchup in the market, you've got to determine whether it's betting on the guy he's facing or betting against this player. But in this business for a long time, when a market moves as much as it does, the information is right more than it's wrong. So, I'm happy to move past Snedeker. Maybe if he was a little higher, 50 or 60-1, I'd probably throw a flyer in. But again, the quality of this field, the price seems a bit short.
Well, look at it this way. If you followed Jeff last week and threw, $50 on Patrick Cantley, and you got paid back about $800, what the hell? Take 100 of it and throw it on Brian Gay at 125-1. Why not? Why not, right? Let's talk to baseball. This isn't going to affect odds, I wouldn't think. But it is. I think it's a big injury.
It should.
And I ranted on this yesterday because Gene Segura, who I'm convinced is one of the worst teammates in baseball because the guy has tons of talent and keeps on ending up with different teams. He got in a fight with D. Gordon last year in Seattle. Didn't run out of pop-up. And it created a situation where the second baseman drops the ball. He lets the ball drop on purpose. McCutchen ends up in a rundown, blows out his knee, and is out for the year. It's a big injury for the Phillies.
Sure is, and it's clearly a downgrade going from Andrew McCutchen to Jay Bruce. Jay Bruce will provide some power, short porch in right field in Philly, but he doesn't bring much else. McCutchen has been an absolute on-base machine this year. His on-base percentage, almost 400. Been taking a ton of walks, really disciplined at the plate. So surely a downgrade. What's interesting is, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we took some Braves NL East money, which with this injury, that seems like a better bet as the days go on.
Yeah, Teddy, I wanted to throw this in, too. Beyond McCutcheon's stats, he meant a lot in that clubhouse.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why McCutcheon is the ultimate example of a guy whose stats are not going to tell you how important he is to the team. And here's Philadelphia all of a sudden, facing adversity really for the first time all year, where they're having a rough West Coast swing, and to lose McCutcheon the way that they did with a guy not running a pop-out, you wonder about that locker room moving forward, because it's a locker room with a lot of strong personalities. And I think McCutcheon was really good for them, and they'll miss him more than the stats and probably more than the markets. He said he's not going to move the needle. Does he move the needle even a penny?
Given that Jay Bruce is, he's a serviceable replacement in terms of overall player value. No, I can't see it being worth, more than a penny or two, but probably not. It probably doesn't affect the line at all. But that being said, if Bruce struggles for a few games and maybe the Phillies lose a couple more, maybe it starts to their overall team value moves down a couple of points in the power rankings.
By the way, Jay Bruce, home run today and a home run yesterday as well, so at least off to a positive start.
Yeah, they still bet the total up from 8 to 9 today.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to win, too. The day games at Petco, there's no marine layer, and the ball does travel a lot further. Let's talk about the Diamondbacks. We've already seen one team start to sell, and that's the Mariners, who sold Jay Bruce. And that's not surprising, because Dipoto loves to make moves, and they stink. The Diamondbacks have gone in the other direction now. They're now below 500, and a lot of speculation they're going to be sellers. So do you start incorporating that into, maybe, I'm not talking about dramatic adjustment, but even on a daily basis, do you start incorporating the fact that the team might be kind of calling it quits on the season? Do you adjust a nickel or a dime?
I think it depends on the spot. I don't think you do if they're playing another team that maybe isn't the Dodgers or the Braves or the Phillies, because the other team might be in the same spot. But these teams that need to win games for playoff races and for home field advantage, you definitely need to move it a nickel or, 8-10 cents, because all the money just comes in on one side. And, Dave, we talked before the season that this Diamondback team didn't figure to be good at all. And frankly, that the fact that they've been above or around 500 for as long as they have has been somewhat of a surprise to me. The question is, when they sell, assuming they sell, what does a team give them for a guy like Greinke? He makes a ton of money. He's got 2 more years left on his contract, so it's not a rental. A team that takes him is going to have to be willing to pay him for the next couple of years. So I wonder if that limits how much they can get in return for him. So I'm curious to see, what, if anything, they do at the deadline.
And that's so weird to consider, because Greinke's still pretty good.
Yeah, sure is.
And to have him locked up for 2 years back in the day, that'd be worth a lot more to keep him for 2 years than it would be on a rental.
I would do it anyway, because if nothing else, even if his pitching diminishes, you can put him out there as a pinch hitter. He's good. He's good. What the heck is going on with Miami?
Biggest story in baseball, and no one's talking about it.
It's insane. They scored, 34 runs in 3 games?
They got over the total by themselves 3 games in a row.
Clearly it can't continue when you look at their lineup. But, hey, they're all Major League ball players by definition. So I guess it can happen. That being said, this winning has been really good for the house after May month, which, you talk to anyone around town, the baseball in May was not good. But, this Marlins team, they'll take the wins when they can get them, because, you and I know that's not going to continue.
Well, when a team like Miami goes on a run like this, do you find anyone riding them? And similarly, when a team like the Mariners, who are now, 12-37 in their last 49, are you finding that people betting against Seattle day in, day out, over and over again? Or do these streaks just kind of, they exist without people taking full advantage, let's say, or bettors taking full advantage?
Teddy, in regards to your question about the Marlins, yesterday, the Marlins played the Brewers, and about 15 minutes before game, the amount of money we had on Marlins plus 1.5, and it was like a minus 110 proposition each way, including parlays, was 0. $0. intelligent bet for a nickel on the Marlins plus 1.5, like 3 minutes before the game started, and that was how much money we had on Marlins plus 1.5. So I think that answers that question.
Well, here's the flip side. I bet you had more than 0 on the Astros minus 1.5.
Oh, yeah, the Astros. Oh, boy. They just cost you money every night, and it doesn't stop. And Altuve's out, Springer's out, Correa's out. It doesn't matter because they don't give up any runs. And it's got to be good as an offensive player to know you get together with the guys. If we score 4 runs tonight, we're going to win.
Yeah.
It's not like, maybe we might get there. No, they're just going to win. And it's crazy just how good that rotation and that bullpen has been. And when all these guys get back healthy, I mean, I know it's a long way off, but the list of teams that can beat them in a playoff series is surely a short list.
Sure, but the other team that's had ridiculous pitching lately is the Dodgers. The Dodgers get to 3; they're covering on the run line. What's your issue with like Houston and L.A. and the parlays together and the public liability? Are you having a lot of problems with this? Are they costing you money?
Yeah, the Astros more than the Dodgers. For whatever reason, I feel like lately the Dodgers' prices have been like far more expensive, and the avalanche of Dodger money has not been the same as the avalanche on the Astros. That being said, there aren't people running to the window to bet the other side. But yeah, it just keeps paying the parlays. But again, as the house, you don't need to win them all to beat the parlays. You just got to win 1 or 2. And then you look at a night like last night where none of the favorites that everybody bets every night won. So last night was a disaster for parlay bettors. So you take the good with the bad, and the house isn't complaining, and you just keep paying the Astros bettors, I guess.
And by the way, did you see the play Seattle had last night? It was one of the plays of the year. This was great. It's first and third, 1 out for Houston. Okay, guy hits it's got a chance to be a double play grounder to the shortstop. So that being the case, it's going to be an attempted 6-4-3. The catcher does what he's supposed to do. He takes off to try and back up the throw at first base. Only problem is the shortstop, he threw home. There's nobody there. It's like, welcome to the Seattle Mariners. I mean, they're not even a Major League Baseball team at this point. So, good luck with that. UFC 238 is this Saturday. We know, we had a nice big upset in boxing last week. And that's good. That's good for that side of the fighting game equation. But you guys don't have to worry about action on these main UFC events. And we've got the Cerrone fight this weekend, and I understand Cerrone Ferguson is doing big business.
Yeah, that's the one that stands out, looking through all the UFC wagers. That fight has twice as much money on it than any other fight. It has more tickets than any other fight. And these are two guys that the public seems to love, and Cerrone's a guy you got to love watching fight. We took some sharp Cerrone plus $1.45 a few days ago. Now we're at $1.20. Our fight expert in the office, Alan Berg, he likes Cerrone here as well. So maybe the dog is worth taking a chance on them.
When it comes to these big UFC fights, is it the same guys who are betting baseball that are betting UFC, or is it a completely different clientele when it comes to the fights and your daily sports?
It's a completely different clientele. The early week action, we usually put up the fights Wednesday for the Saturday card. And, we'll put them up earlier if it's a giant card. And you get a couple of sharp bets early in the week while the number shapes itself. And on the weekends, especially when the events are here at T-Mobile, you just get so many $50 and $100 bets from the public, from people that, they're not baseball fans. They're UFC fans, and they're here to watch the fight. So, this card will be good because there's a couple of big names on the card, but when the card is in Las Vegas, the handle is phenomenal.
A couple other things that might attract some handle at Belmont this Saturday, and it appears, I think, now I haven't followed it today, but Nadal-Federer looks like it's going to happen, 2 versus 3 at the French Open. One more meeting between these two great players. That's one that'll get the casual fans excited, and I would put myself in the casual fan category. And if that's happening, I'm watching and probably betting. I suspect that'll be the same way. And tennis isn't a big volume sport, but that match would be huge volume.
It will be, and you're right. You know, we've put up all the matches since day one